Couple of quick things before we get into today's video. Please don't skip ahead. I do want you to hear this. Firstly, by the time you're watching this video, I should be live streaming on YouTube. There will be a comment pinned in the comment section. You should just be able to click on that link and it'll take you right to my stream. Stop in, say hi, watch a little bit. I would really appreciate it. Secondly, my goal, now that we're at 35,000 subscribers, is to get to 40,000 by the end of the year. So if you guys aren't already subscribed and you watch my videos anyways, I would really appreciate if you just took the plunge, hit that subscribe button for me, and help me get to 40K by 2025. Now for what you're here for, the F-16C. Today, we're looking at specifically the F-16C Block 40 in the Israeli tech tree, though what I'm going to talk about really kind of just applies to all of the F-16Cs for that matter. The only real difference in how they're going to play is that the Israeli one does have the extra countermeasures, and the French one does not have the HMD. And while those two things are pretty important, both individually and as a whole for the aircraft, it's not gonna really change the overall balance of the F-16. Sure, the French F-16 Block 15 not having HMD is a pretty big deal and it does suck, but I mean, what are you gonna do, move it to 13.3? No, absolutely not. And so I just wanted to take a break from all the patch content, specifically like the F-15E. I've been covering so much F-15E stuff and there's honestly more to come. I could talk about the F-15E forever, and I do plan on making another video, but that would get a little bit tiring, I think, for everybody, myself included. So I want to take today and talk about what I think is the most balanced plane, probably at top tier, and what I think Gaijin should try to strive for when making new additions, and of course that's the F-16C. I think this plane has been implemented very well, as far as obviously not game breaking in any way, but it's worth playing, it's fun, there's a lot of cool things about it, very usable in 13.7 environment, and there's other planes in other nations that have very similar flavors of aircraft. They're a little bit different. They have their own little quirks. For example, the F-16C you might compare to something like the J-10A in the Chinese tech tree. The overall effectiveness one man can have in both of those planes is quite similar. You just get minorly different flavors in how you go about doing it. For example, the J-10 having the gate with IRCCM missiles, the F-16 having the tracking suspension AIM-9Ms, the J-10 having better flight performance for 1v1 dogfights, the F-16 having better flight performance for BVR. Things like that I think are really fun to bounce around between different nations, and you can kind of choose your own flavor of top tier fighter without making them so drastically different amongst each other to where it's like, yeah, I would obviously rather be playing an F-15 than an F-16, for example. And I understand that without doing it that way, we might never see some of the aircraft that we'd all want in the game to actually arrive to the game. There's no way you can make every single new addition as balanced as possible, but I don't know why they can't just hold off on adding certain vehicles until they can kind of do it all in waves. For example, just recently Gaijin wanted to hold off on adding active radar homing missiles until they could add a plane for every nation pretty much that could carry an active radar homing missile. Well, why didn't we take it a step further and we waited until every single nation in the game could have a plane that was actually competitive with an active radar homing missile? We all know that in the initial introduction of Fox 3s, the AMRAAM was absolutely slamming everything. Germany got the F4F ICE. Things like, it's questionable. I don't know why we have to conduct ourselves this way when it comes to adding new vehicles to the game. I don't know why something like the F-15E and the F-15C, and maybe we could get a new version of the flanker that's a little bit better. We could drop all of that at the same time with something like the Eurofighter, for example. Honestly, probably just wishful thinking, but that's pretty much where I'm going with this. I think that the F-16 is the epitome of great balance and a very well thought out addition to top tier. It just fits the game perfectly without breaking anything, and I think if every plane could get their fighters added in that manner, there would be a lot less complaining videos from Mr. Seekerhead talking about this, that, and the other is completely broken and needs to be nerfed. So anyways, what do you get exactly with the F-16C when compared to some of the other top tier aircraft? Well, for one, you get probably the best active radar missile in the game, the AIM-120 AMRAAM. It's the AIM-120A. A lot of people are still a little confused about the difference between the A and the B. In War Thunder, there is absolutely no difference. As far as I know, in real life, the only difference is basically the AIM-120B was logistically modified to be able to be updated easier without complete disassembly of the missile. But as far as their performance goes and combat usage, they're the exact same, both in War Thunder and in real life. Most of your F-16Cs are going to have an HMD, and of course that is something you definitely want to see in a top tier vehicle. Not having an HMD really does suck, but like I said, I mean, what are you going to do with the French one? Move it down to 13.3 because it doesn't have an HMD? No, that's just not going to fly. That said, I would probably recommend using either the Israeli one or the US one. The only real advantage the French one offers is the fact that it is a Block 15 F-16 and the flight performance is a lot better for 1 versus 1 dogfighting. We all know though, top tier is not really about 1 versus 1 dogfighting, so flight performance in that metric is not all that important. Instead, you want to see how fast your plane can accelerate in a straight line, how easy it is to bleed speed, or rather how difficult it is to bleed speed. That would be more ideal. And as long as the plane can somewhat pull some degrees per second in a turn to get into that notch in time, that's pretty much all you're looking for when it comes to flight performance at top tier. Sure, every once in a while you're gonna have to dogfight somebody, and sure, you'll probably be kicking yourself if you're flying a boat like the Su-27 when you get into that dogfight, but more often than not, it's not going to be a concern. If you so choose, you can run some IR missiles like the AIM-9M in addition to your AMRAAMs, but then you'll only have 4 active radar missiles. I prefer to have 6, and usually, like for example, if I'm playing the Israeli F-16 here, I will run the Derbies as backup to the AMRAAMs rather than IR missiles, because the Derbies perform better in close range situations than the AMRAAM does, and I do find them to be rather useful sometimes. What I really like about the F-16Cs as well is their countermeasure count. It's not just a ridiculous quantity like the F-15 and the Gripen, where you never have to think about your countermeasure usage. You just drop as much chaff and flares as you want whenever you want. The F-16s it's up there, like it's a good amount of countermeasures. It's what I think is a healthy competitive amount of countermeasures, but it's not endless all you can eat like something on the F-15. You do have to actually be mindful about when you're dropping your chaff and how much chaff you're gonna drop. And I think that's something that, like I said, I think would be good for all of the top tier nations to have to deal with. But it seems like the newer the planes get, the less you have to worry about your countermeasures. They just keep on coming with hundreds and hundreds of countermeasures. I guess it really is what it is. If that's how it is in real life, then so be it. We have to progress forward. Anyways, it would just be a lot cooler if they were all somewhat balanced in terms of countermeasure count. Obviously, that's kind of impossible. I'm just kind of wishing. That's pretty much my thoughts on the F-16. I think it's a really well balanced plane. I think it is a great example of what to strive for with new additions. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see ya.